Hello guys, so today we will see that how we can relate the gender studies paper 4 of ethics to sociological ideas and dimensions. So previously we have seen other papers as well. So again we are reiterating the fact that we shouldn't use these sociological jargons, terms or thinkers in your GS or essay paper. Okay, we have just mentioned it for interlinkage purposes. Through this analysis, you would come to know that how your sociological knowledge will help you to provide various innovative dimensions to even the ethics paper. Okay, because sociology is not limited, it's a very broad social science. Okay, in various questions, you will also find that certain points are repeated because obviously in sociology, also there are certain concepts which you can use in ethical dilemmas, in knowing about the various viewpoints of the bureaucrats, etc., the various nature of bureaucracy. So in this way you will find that various points in this PDF are repeated in certain questions. Okay, so the very first question which we have in our hand is: identify the 5 ethical traits on which one can plot the performance of a civil servant and justify their inclusion in the matrix. Okay. So it's a very direct question. See, everyone would be writing about the 5 ethical traits and how they, are there for this purpose. So you should focus on the various ways in which we can track this ethical traits. When we talk about bureaucracy, the very first thinker which come to our mind is Weber. So Weber has talked about bureaucracy and how they perform and the tendency of centralization. You can also relate it to the democratization of bureaucracy. Okay, where you'll basically find that the bureaucracy is something that needs to reach to the grassroots level, and it should perform functions that would reach to the lowest people in the lowest of chunks. You can also relate here to the Merton's idea, where Merton says that the formalistic impersonality, okay, it's futile. So it says that one should try to mold themselves as per the situation, especially the bureaucrats, so that they can even deal with the adverse conditions. Okay, and they should not be very formal and very impersonal. There are certain crisis situations like the COVID-19 where they need to deal things personally and informally. You can also relate this idea to Marx's concept of bureaucracy, where Marx says that bureaucracy is the perfect form of rational legal authority. And he also says that bureaucracy is something which is iron cage of rationality. That people are very strict there. Okay, the public servants are very strict. They don't mold their values and ideas. They have very strict adherence to rules. Okay, and they don't go for any creative innovation. So, okay, so these are the certain points which you can use in other answers as well. Besides that, you also see that all these ideas, they tend to somewhere deneutralize the political neutrality of bureaucrats. Okay, you will find that the state at times they repress the originality, the innovativeness of a bureaucrat, because the bureaucrat is made to follow the strict rule books. Okay, so this will provide you a different dimensions when you relate to sociological questions to ethical questions. The next question is we talk about is: identify the 10 essential values that are needed to be an effective public servant. The ways and means to prevent unethical behavior in public servant. So first the question is asking about you the essential values, and nextly it is asking you how you can prevent the unethical behavior. So a person's ethical behavior is influenced by a lot of factors. Okay, that how the person is being taken care in the company, either how are the policies of the place or the company or the state, is everyone being treated equally or not, how is the moral climate. Okay, what are the ethical contents, what are one's financial needs also determines one ethical behavior. For example, if we talk about a criminal, or so to say a thief, okay, they do so don't not out of purpose, because they do so because they may be having some financial needs. So okay, so all these are certain factors which influences one ethical behavior. Besides that, you can say that civil servants are the one. When you talk about the values, okay, of civil servant, we should talk about that how it is the need that civil servants should be those who are very down to earth. Okay, they are the one who should stay in touch with the ground root realities because they are working in the ground root levels. Besides that, they should address all the issues of maybe caste hierarchy based discrimination, the status of women in the traditional society, the tribal isolation. They should try to handle it very properly, and they should not be very much unattached to it. Okay, see, there are two things. First of all, when we talk about the ideas of Parsons, he talk about effective neutrality over affective. Okay, so he says that affective is where you are emotionally attached to something. For example, if you are an administrator who is a woman, so you will definitely relate yourself to women and you may become biased there. So at that moment you should practice effective neutrality, where you should deal with things as a whole. You should look for the greater good. Okay, also the same things that we discussed earlier, that Weber says that there is an chances of centralization tendency. Besides that, we should try to look forward towards the democratization of bureaucracy, where the bureaucracy should work for the lower chunks. We should also can focus here about Merton's idea of formalistic impersonality, which says that sometimes impersonal and informal relations of bureaucrats with the people is futile and bears no result. Similarly, the Marx concept, which we read, that bureaucracy is the iron cage of rationality. It is somewhere where there is no innovation, and the bureaucrats have to be abide by a strict rule book. Okay, and you can also say that how we can keep a check on the ethical behavior by having a very important civil society feedback. When you have a civil society which is very strong, they will act as an alternative mechanism and will put pressure on the accountability of the civil services. Okay, so the next question which we have in line is with regard to impact of digital technology as a reliable source of input for rational decision making. Okay, is it debatable or not, and we have to critically evaluate it with examples. So this question was expected because of the COVID-19. So whenever we talk about an effective decision making, there are various processes about it. First, we need to identify the decision. We need to gather information. We need to identify various alternatives. We need to weigh that which alternative is better and which is not, which would lead to good for the greater number of people, which will bring justice, which will preserve the rights of the people. So all these needs to be looked forward to. Then we have to choose among various alternatives and we have to take action. And after taking action also, we should review our actions, so that even if there is something wrong, we can go about it. Okay, so when we talk about this digital divide, you can talk about the exclusion of various disadvantaged group like scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, women, especially the rural population. You can talk about that how artificial intelligence model, they have somewhere been prone to human biases, especially the majority. You can talk about Marx's idea of technology, where Marx says that technology is nothing but it's a tool. Okay, which is used by whom? The ruling class, to adhere their interest. Okay, whatever interest they have, they will like to adhere it. And technology has also led to the infodemic, that is the spread of fake news. Okay, creating situations of mob lynching, okay, of intolerance, of communal riots, Delhi riots, which we saw. Also, somewhere you see that today these digital technologies have not been very reliable because of the surveillance technologies. Okay, here we have mentioned about the Cambridge Analytica involvement in the Facebook data leak. You can mention the recent Pegasus attack, which has been criticized. Okay, besides that, you can also mention about the role of technology in fulfilling the various goals. You can also mention here about the recent government initiative of Mission Karma Yogi. Okay, where they are trying to give civil services civil services servants the various training. Okay, you have the iGoat platform, Government of India platforms through Karma Yogi. So all of this would have been mentioned. Okay, so next is besides domain knowledge, a public official needs innovativeness and creativity. Okay, this is very important, where they talk about that a public official or a public servant shouldn't just be someone who has a good amount of knowledge. He should be the one who should be innovative. He could blend his knowledge as per his situation. Okay, this is what they have been asking you. So a lot of things that determine a person's ideas, whatever decision they are taking, if it is right or wrong. Okay, if they are in accordance with their values, or if they will lead to the goodwill of all the people or not, or it is just for their personal purpose. Okay, what are the business objectives which relate to it, if they could be justified or not, if they are legal or not. So all these are the certain questions that needs to be posed. So then we can relate here to the social action approach of Weber, where Weber says that whatever outcomes we are looking forward to, or whatever decisions, okay, we are taking in life, they should be analyzed rationally. Okay, we should not be irrational, and we should also look forward the consequences of our actions. Then we can also say that India is the most diverse country, so there can't be one particular rule book, okay, which can govern everything. So there we need innovativeness. Okay, for example, there would be certain officials who will be posted in certain areas. There you will see high race cases of mob lynching. Okay, and then there will be certain areas like northeast where the cases won't be reported of insurgency. Okay, and the conflict, the people there go for tribal ways of solving things. So in this way there needs to be innovativeness to solve various issues as per the situation. Like the covid situation will be different in different states. In Kerala it would be different, in Bihar it will be different, in Odisha it would be different. So yeah, it varies. Again, we will definitely be meeting a lot of agitation because we are the most diverse country, and what we should do is we should have the potential to polarize communities. Okay, so see what happens is that certain agitations that lead to polarization, there will be some class who will be against another class, so such situations will be arising. So obviously in such situation we need our bureaucrats, or so to say our public officials, to come up with some solutions which is more innovative. Okay, and we should be the one who should be focusing on being more secular. Okay, as I said you, there will be certain places where there will be higher cases of riots, communal flare-ups. So there we need innovativeness to deal with the problems. So in this way you could have added certain sociological dimensions to your answers. See, there's no need of mentioning about Weber or Parsons or Talcott Parsons. You just need to relate it to it. Okay, the next question is Swami Vivekanand quote, which says that every work has got to pass through hundreds of difficulties before succeeding. Those that preserve will see the light sooner or later. Okay, it says that in life you will, whenever you will find something good, before that you have to go through a lot of phases of difficulties, of struggle. And you all could relate it to it because we all are UPSC aspirants, and as a result you could easily relate it to it that before success obviously there will be a lot of struggles, but there will be people who will be giving up in between. Okay, but this is what this quote says, that those who don't give up and who keep on struggling and they have perseverance, they will see light, that they will win sooner or later. So you can realize that relate it to India's freedom struggle, where we faced a lot of problems from racial discrimination to caste based, linguistic and poverty issues, but still we went on fighting for our struggle. You can also talk about the green revolution. Okay, in green revolution was an response to our food crisis. You can then talk about the various feminist struggle who struggled throughout the era to give women voting rights. See, in India the voting rights were given with the framing of the constitution, but before that there were limited voting rights, and before that America, there were entirely the feminist struggle movement to give women rights. Okay, so these were the things. Besides that, you also know the various struggles that we see during the Indian freedom movement to give to abolish sati, to increase the child marriage age. Okay, or to widow remarriage, all of these. Also you can say that Marx you see that whenever we will try to bring communist society, we have to go through a number of struggle phases. Okay, where he talks about primitive communism, and then ancient society, and then feudal society, and then we come to the capitalist, and finally to the communist society. Okay, also A.R. Desai talks about the social background of Indian nationalism and the various ways in which India developed. Okay, fine. So next question is with regard to Dalai Lama's quote, which says that we can never obtain peace in the outer world, but in the inner ourselves. So if you see this diagram, which says that only with inner struggle, when you are able to struggle internally and you are able to find an answer to it, and how can you do so? You will do so with the help of right attitude, where you will be mindful, you will have perspective towards different things, and you will accept your situation. Then only you will find inner peace. If you keep on pondering about things which are not in your hand, and you will not take any action to deal with your inner struggle, you can never achieve inner peace. A peace can also be considered from Marx's perspective. Marx says that people are trying to calm you down because they are going to instill a status quo in you, that okay, you are having this because it is in your fate. You can also say that India's non-alignment movement can also be seen as an idea to promote peace. Peace can also be seen as the places where the various events in the history where there were movements for the rights of Dalits, of tribals, of women. There we find that after these we have certain settlement and peace. Okay, so it's not always that there will be peace will be achieved through normal means. Peace can also be achieved through such movements. And then you find that India's cultural traditions, which are of harmony, tolerance, and coexistence. Okay, so you can relate it to the religious ideas as well. The next question is about attitude. That attitude is an important component, and how a suitable public servant should have a particular kind of attitude. So attitude has various components. You might have written ethics. It has got a cognitive component, it has got an affective component, and got a behavioral component. So the behavioral component is very important, and so is the affective component, and so is the cognitive component. See, I'll give you an example. For example, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. The reason why Swachh Bharat Abhiyan was somewhere very successful, because it had all these three components. It had the cognitive means, where the people were made to believe that they need to have a very clean environment. They should not go for open defecation. There were many things which were attached to the feelings of these people, and there were behavior ideas which were imposed. Okay, they were asked to act upon it. So in this way, behavior attitude change requires all these three components. You can relate to all those that we have talked previously about the caste hierarchy, about the Weber's idea of bureaucracy centralization, about democratization of bureaucracy, the Merton's idea of formalistic impersonality, and Marx, who says that bureaucracy is nothing but just an organ of state. Okay, the same things which we discussed. Okay, the next topic is, in the case of crisis of conscience, does emotional intelligence helps to overcome without compromising the ethical or the moral stand? So it's a question about emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is very important because it helps you to know about yourself. It asks you to regulate yourself, that how the action which you took is right or wrong. It will also help you to motivate to take certain actions. So in this way you can relate. Now you can also talk about the historical perspective, like how British officials, when they had to arrest Gandhi, okay, for this non-violent satyagraha. You can talk about the use of emotional intelligence by our constitution makers when they instilled the idea of secularism despite the violence we saw during the time of partition. You can say the ethical stand which was taken by India by forming the non-aligned, okay, despite the various pressure from the USA. You can talk about the crisis of conscience which we see when someone is practicing untouchability, female peticide, and how you should try to pursue them. There are various initiatives in which various bureaucrats, they have worked to reduce such social stigmas and social evils. Okay, you can talk about Arthur Amir's Sir's work in Rajasthan, okay, where he tried to reduce the child marriage. In recently in Odisha also, we find the Ganjam, where we had a lot of child marriage, but for 2 years continuously. Now it has been reduced. It is called as something Aadhar Kadi or something like that, the initiative. Okay, so all this you could have mentioned here, that how through emotional intelligence we can pursue people. You can use all the three components of attitude here: behavioral, effective, all these. Okay. Next is with regard to refugee. The question says that the return back of refugees is a prosecution or a human right violation. What are the ethical dilemmas that are involved here? So, we see a refugee crisis because of the ongoing ethical conflicts and religious fundamentalism in Afghanistan, Syria, Lebanon. You saw the Myanmar refugee crisis, Rohingya coming up to India and Bangladesh. So, besides that, the refugee crisis is also seen because of the climate factors, okay, which is now realized, the climate refugees, okay. So a lot of times you see the northeast of our India is facing the problem of this refugee crisis. Okay, so it says that refugee crisis is obviously a human right violation, and it's an ethical dilemma because you have to look into the opportunities of your own citizens and then with the refugee if they settle there. But undoubtedly, refugee bring with them new cultural ideologies. They also serve as a source of labor for the host country, and they try to instill the idea of toleration in society where people try to accommodate with their cultural ideas and beliefs. Okay, so something that you can relate to. uh, Next question is, should impartial and being non-partisan can consider as indispensable qualities to make successful civil servant? Okay, so they're asking you about impartiality. When we talk about objectivity, you might have learned in sociology, it is where we are not biased. Okay, we are unbiased and we do not allow our personal preferences to influence our actions. So under objectivity we find this impartiality, where you try to balance between your own, ideas and the real ideas, and you try to be unbiased, you're not influenced by anything. Okay, now, so the same topic, that same things can be repeated here. Like in India, the civil service needs to be attached to the ground root. They should be someone who should handle the women, the tribals, the caste problems very nicely, and should not get influenced by it, should not be subjective to it, or so to say partial towards it. We can talk about Weber's centralization tendency again. Okay, the same topics, the same things that we repeated earlier. Okay, so the next question is with regard to social audit. An independent, empowered social audit is an absolute must in every public services, okay, including judiciary, to ensure performance, accountability, and ethical conduct. Okay, so they are asking about social audit. Social audit, why is social audit important? See, social audit is important because they will try to act as check and balance. Okay, they will try to see if the funds, whatever is there, are they being properly utilized or not. Okay, and if there is any problem, they will try to rehearse all the missing links. They will see that if all the government benefits are received by the beneficiaries or not. They will also see if the program is implemented properly, or if anyone is taking bribe or they are not taking bribe, all these things. Okay, and so it's a checks on the concentration and centralization. You can relate it to here to Robert Dahl's pluralistic concept of power, where he says that power should not be given to a particular person, it should rather be dispersed. Okay, it should rather be dispersed, and there should be multiple centers of power. Okay, there should be multiple centers of power. You can relate it to Ambedkar idea, who says that there should definitely be checks and balances so that a particular class or caste does not exercise control. You can put Marxist idea, who says that judiciary only act as the means of to adhere the interest of the dominant class. You can talk about Weber's iron cage of bureaucracy again here. You can talk about that how various social movements emphasize the idea of social audit, and consequently we find the coming up of right to information act. So all these you can relate it to. The next question is with regard to integrity, that how integrity empowers human beings. So integrity is when you have a continuance between your words, whatever you say, your beliefs, whatever you believe, and whatever actions you are taking. There is a continuity, okay? So there will be people who will tell that, okay, you should do this, but they would not do themselves in their actions. There would be people who will believe, okay, for example, there will be people who believe in the concept of honesty, but once they get into services, they will become dishonest or corrupt. So this is where you lost integrity. Integrity is a continuation of words, your actions, and your belief. You can here take Weber's interpretative idea, where Weber says that you should understand what are the meanings and motives. You should know what your beliefs are. You should know that what you have said to people, and if you are doing that in your action or not. And an integrated person, or a person with an integrity, can only look for the betterment of society, because such kind of person are very consistent with their norms and values, okay? And they are one who try to act very for the welfare of the people. You can also talk here about Parsons pattern variables, where he says that one should look for universalistic principle and not particularist one. You might have read universalist and particular. Particular is where you go for your own self-interest, okay? You are more towards your self-interest, or so to say your own personal interest and personal motive. But in a universalistic, you will go to look for the public welfare, okay? Public welfare. So in this way, he says that the bureaucrat should be one who should be thinking about public welfare and not about personal motive or personal profits. Also, you can say here that the bureaucrats, they act as a positive reference group. Many, almost all of you might have been looking to these bureaucrats as a positive reference group. Okay, so they are an aspiration. So they should be, their actions are followed. So they should be doing that way. You can give examples of Metro Man of India, E. Sridharan. Okay, a very famous. Okay, and all these. Okay, that how you should always try to take moral responsibility of your action, despite it may be see, this Ishradan is known because under his regime, under construction bridge in Delhi collapsed. So he took the responsibility of the team leadership quality, which we say. Okay, so yeah, the next are the case studies. So in case studies, you might have read, I'll just give you the basic ideas. So this case study is where Sunil is a civil servant, okay, and in his area you will find the problem of land mining and sand mafia, okay, but there the sand mafia and the land mining are being supported by the tribals, the tribal chief. And what happens is that Sunil is a very honest officer, and he tries to conduct various raids, and he's tried to put at a ban on all these sand mining. But consequently, these mafias take a note of this, and they try to harm his family. Okay, his wife is, an old mother is taken into vigilance, and also the mafia threatens him that if he is not going to step back, he will be killed like the officer before. So in this way, what action should he take? Okay, so here they have taken into idea the use of tribal solidarity, that how you should try to educate the tribal about the problems of illegal sand mining. You can also try to gather all the tribals against the mafia. You can see that how woman is being surveillanced here, okay, and how woman is being considered to be weak, and they are being used as a tool against the honest bureaucrat. You can talk about the corruption, because in this paragraph you will find that it's besides Sunil, all the member in the office were supporting this, and they knew and they were taking bribe. Okay, so in this way you can relate it to. The next question is with regard to basically a college. In a college where you will find that there was a vice principal, and recent in this college what happens is that you were about to get promotion, but before that there was an incident where two children were caught cheating. And these two children, one of them belonged to a very local politician who helped the university to become very reputed and affiliated, and another is the businessman's child who basically provides a lot of fund. So there is a squad which gets hold of these two people, and the college authority is asking you to resolve this issue. If you are not able to resolve this issue, maybe you will not be getting the promotion, Meanwhile, they are also asking you to let these children go who have committed this crime, because they are the child of the two allied sections. So in this way, and besides that, you will also see that students are protesting outside. So what would be the course of action? Okay, so we will talk about course of action. First of all, you can see the deviant subculture here, that how the students are looking forward towards unfair means to pass the examination. You can see education as an agent of social change, but here the education is perpetuating the whims of the ruling elites. Okay, you can see that how businessmen, okay, and the politician, how the education is being used. You can also mention here about the political and corporate nexus. Okay, that how the such nexus are seen in our education system. You can also mention about Perebode's cultural reproduction, where he says that the culture that we teach to the children, they used to be reproduced throughout the generation, and they socialize the major institutions. You can also give here an idea about the misuse of vested interest by the businessman and the politician. You can also talk that what should the what should you do. So here you can write, think about what rational action of Weber, where he says that your action should be guided by your values. What is your values? Your values of integrity, objectivity, impartiality, all these. You can also say that the protest which is going on by in the campus by the students, and how it should be taken over. You can talk about the independence of a rational legal authority despite the process. You can talk about the re-socialization, okay, which we discussed in earlier videos as well, where we will try to re-socialize those deviant students. Again, the next question is again about the creation of an elevated corridor, and this corridor was to be created you know before the CM's election, but suddenly you find that these these elevated corridor is being made out of a very poor material, and you inform your head, but they just want that the CM wants this to be completed before the elections, and then they are also asking you that you should overlook all of this, because if you don't do this, they will not be giving you a higher post. But you somewhere know that this minor crack is something that relates to a much dangerous situation further. So how would you try to deal with this situation, where you are being pressurized by the CM to complete this before election, your head is pressurizing you, and all these? Okay, so a lot of questions are posed here, that what are the options available, dilemmas faced, okay, what should be your response, okay, and then all these things. So whenever you talk about any kind of problem, so you will find that first you need to identify the decision, the various alternatives which are there with you. What should you prefer, and for example, you are taking a decision, what should be its its consequences. You should choose the best alternative and perform various analysis. Okay, and this is the way in which you need to take very hard decisions in your life. So you can use here the ritualism. Okay, that is, they are trying to just fulfill uh, you know the idea of creating an elevator to for their own fulfillment of election purposes. The way in which the rational legal authority is subservient, okay, the way in which you can say that Davis Murray, okay, they talk about role allocation and role performance. They say that a person who is best suited should be given the best role they perform, and they are talking this about in the functional stratification. So this is breached here. You see those people, despite there is a nexus between the politics and the bureaucrats, okay, as a result those people who deserve to get better positions are not getting it, okay, rather they are being given to someone who is a relative of the bureaucrats, because in this you will find that this elevated corridor is being created by the some family member of the politician. Okay, so as a result you will find that there is nepotism, obviously. You can also find here the problem of universalistic and particularistic that you should either look for your own motive or towards the collective welfare. Okay, you can also talk about the issues of infrastructure here. Okay, and you can feel that you can say that how bureaucracy should look for social welfare. The next question is with regard to COVID-19. So here it says that the COVID-19 affected everyone. It doesn't look into the caste, creed, religion, or whatsoever. There were deficiencies of beds, oxygen, etc. So they are asking you, if you are a hospital administrator of a public hospital at a time when coronavirus had attacked a large number of people, patients were pouring into the hospital day in and day out, then what would you do? How would you justify that your staff should attend those patients? Because this virus is very highly infectious and the infrastructures are limited. If see, you belong to a public hospital, but what happens if you belong to a private hospital, and how would you justify? Okay, so here there are many things which you can mention, that there are regional disparities, there are health infrastructure is very bad in BIMRU states, okay, North Indian states. You can also talk about the COVID was fueled by gender violence and domestic violence. You can talk about the impact of this pandemic was more severe on the marginalized section. Also, you can talk about the problems of health in India, which were similar to the sub-Saharan region, and how the pandemic just elevated the problems, because they saw that people in India were very less, they had very less immunity system, because they were eating these junk foods. So all of these. So the next question we have is with regard to a company. Okay, so it says that there is a producer who was earlier exporting outside certain product. Okay, and what happens is that this producer also want to sell his product domestically, and he says that he will try to ensure the same quality of the product as he is exporting. But what happens is that when the producer started exporting domestically, he didn't maintain the same quality. He said that there were variants in the quality of the products which were sold domestically. The various products which were, not, there were various products which were rejected in the foreign market were sold by him in the domestic market, and as a result, this was adversely affecting the food company. So, what decision should you take? Okay, how should you try to resolve the lost reputation? The competent authorities role, what should be done? Okay, and all these, or the ethical dilemma involved. So as we've already said, first you need to select the best alternative. You need to weigh in terms of goodness and badness, and then develop the various alternatives. You should say that how such kind of act would lead to a lot of problems between the farmer groups. Okay, besides that, you can say that there is a lack of land and potential of cooperativization. Okay, which says that when there is a need, that we should keep a check on the quality, and through increase in quality we should also try to check about the farmers income. So basically there the corporates, okay, they should try to look into the quality of things that are being sold. Then we can also tell here the role of SSG, that how they try to basically improve the status of women financially. You can talk about the role of local panchayats, who should also keep a check on to prevent corruption. So here basically you should try to regain the lost confidence by again rechecking the food quality. Okay, maybe banning license for some period of time and trying to resolve the issue. And you should also ensure that the producer doesn't again do these things. Okay, so all of these are the particular way in which you can deal these ethical dilemmas and case studies through sociological ideas. Okay, so for the PDF, you can visit our website www.reliableandvalid.com. You can also join the Telegram channel, that is Sociology and Social Issues, where we keep on updating you about our various programs and courses, and keep posting you about the current affairs. Okay, so again, use these terms not directly in the GS or SO paper. You need to just link to the idea and use the idea in your paper to get a better advantage. Okay, so yeah, So thank you